You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. It's been a while, so apologize for that. And I think everyone knows why we've been off the air for over 2 months. If you can believe that, it's unfortunate, and we hated being away. But some life events got in the way, and could be getting away here in the not too distant future.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
But yeah, so for those of you that may be wondering why we were gone for 2 months, that night of the crazy rain, the day of the Mifflin game, my basement flooded, and it took the last 2 months to get everything fixed and back in order. But I think we're going to end up being better off for it, both personally and for this show. So here we are, episode 7 of the 4th season of the Bulldog Hour reboot. It's crazy to think we're at 7, even missing 2 months, but this was actually supposed to be the night of the 13th show.
Yeah, that's crazy. Lots of the stuff that you mentioned there. Yeah, it's, there was water everywhere.
Yeah, there was not a good,
and to
bad
be fair,
time.
we both had issues with water that day. We both know people who had much worse issues than we had, so it could have been much worse. But yeah, there was a lot of other stuff we had to take care of in the meantime before we could start investing, the time and everything it took to put the show together. It just wasn't on the front of the list, for a few weeks. Now the good news is we were still involved with the aspect of it.
Yeah,
we
didn't miss any of that.
Yeah. Let's not get ridiculous. We weren't going to miss that.
So,
but we were able to keep up with that, and so hopefully we get to kind of get back on track tonight, and hopefully we have a few more shows.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
We're guaranteed at least one more show.
Yeah,
at least
that's right.
I'll be here for at least one more show.
Yeah,
I hope you're able to join me.
Yeah,
but
me too,
we'll see.
But
We'll see.
everything's kind of up in the air. We'll see.
So we're alluding to it. Do you want to just say it, or you don't want to get that personal on the air?
No, that's fine. Yeah, my wife's due date is quickly approaching, so all of that stuff is kind of up in the air. So it's kind of we've got all the plans in place for the Friday nights and all of those things. We had plan A and B and C the other night.
By the way, got upgrade Friday night. Got to drive the equipment truck.
Yeah.
So we're
yes,
closer and closer to official members of this team, and not just this random
Just the
outsiders
guys who
that kind of
follow
just
along.
creep around in the background and be like, "Can I take pictures and interview you for a show?"
So that was a new experience for us, but hopefully we have a couple more games, and that would be great because the due date isn't for a few weeks. So I hope it's a few weeks till that's an issue, and I hope it's still an issue and I'm missing games.
Yes,
those would both be good things.
Very good things. Very good things. So the last time you heard from us, Wilson was 0-1. That's not the case anymore.
It's gone better.
They're not 0-1. They've gone 7-2 since our last show, which is positive. Finished the regular season for a second straight year. It's 7-3. They were 2-2 non-league and 5-1 in the league. But the most important part of that 5-1 is that because of the ways things shook out and what Wilson was able to do against Manheim Township, Wilson with Township and Warwick share the league title. So Wilson once again can call themselves league co-champions or tri-champions, whatever you want to say. They share the title, but they're back.
Champions.
Yeah, we'd like to say champions, but people are always quick to point out that it's a three-way tie, which hasn't happened in the Lancaster Lebanon League for a number of years. I don't have it off the top of my head. I don't have all my stats
I think
back.
in Section 1, I think it might be since 97 or something, since it was a three-way.
No, we shared it with Cedar Crest and Reading in 2000.
Okay.
'Cause I was on that team. We beat Reading. Reading beat Cedar Crest. Cedar Crest beat Wilson. Yeah. So that was the little go around. Everyone was 6-1 in the league that year. Wilson was 9-1 overall.
And we've talked about it before on the show, but that's probably a throwback that some of the people involved with the team now are probably like, wait, what? Reading and Cedar Crest were both good?
Yeah, well, it surprised me, actually, because I thought Cedar Crest was, a pretty decent team, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But it surprised me when Wilson played Cedar Crest just a couple weeks ago to learn that Cedar Crest has only beaten Wilson 4 times.
Yeah, that was a little surprising to me, too, because I know they're one of the bigger schools in Lebanon County. Trying to think, they might be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in Lebanon County. But they, I thought there was some. I know there was some of the Section 2 stuff, in there, so it's not as many games maybe as some people would think, but they were Section 1 for a lot of years too. So, but anyway,
yeah, it's obviously Coach Doms has said it. The players have said it. I believe Drago talked to seniors Cameron Magalotti and Elijah Morales, or maybe Isaiah Gilmore, and they said, obviously we wanted it all to ourselves, but some is better than none.
Absolutely.
They weren't able to get it last year with the loss to Township, outright Township, incredible team that they had to win the league, then win districts. But then this year, Wilson beats Township, Township beats Warwick, and as we'll get to in a few minutes, Warwick beats Wilson. But it is the 31st league title for Wilson overall in 74 seasons. It's the 27th Lancaster-Lebanon League title and 26th Section 1 of the LL League title for the Bulldogs, which is by and far the most in any level of the Lancaster-Lebanon League, and especially in Section 1, because Manheim Central, who, spoiler alert, Wilson lost to earlier this season, we'll talk about that shortly, they won the league again, undefeated regular season for them, and they have, I think, 25 section
I'm not sure.
or league championships. So I'm trying to think of all the stuff I've read from Drago and Reinhardt over the last few months, all the stats and everything that they are able to put out, and so that right around that amount. So Manheim Central's right behind Wilson in terms of Lancaster-Lebanon League titles. So, well, I guess we should start at the beginning.
Yeah.
But let's get the housekeeping stuff out of the way. We have a few things we want to do here. Start every show. Mostly, we want to thank our sponsors, who we apologize to them for not having shows throughout the bulk of the regular season. Again, we had a lot in the off season. We did 5 shows in the off season. Then we were able to do the Central Dauphin recap and preview the Mifflin game, and then we kind of disappeared because of the flooding situation. But we do want to thank my dad and May's Sandwich Shop for their sponsorship over the last 4 years, Andy Herr and Matt Cruz, and a few anonymous donors. There's another one that has helped me out greatly, but he doesn't want any recognition, but I will thank him and his contributions not only to me and the show, but to the football program over the last few decades. A great supporter of the program in general. So appreciate everyone that has sponsored us this year and past years, and hopefully are looking to get involved with us in the years to come. There are a few ways you can support us. Again, the sponsorship and advertising are always great. Donations too. Visiting the website, that's going to blow up and get bigger and better through the course of the off seasons. I look to fill out the history on there and get the videos done. But one of the most important is just spreading the word, and Justin says it best.
Yeah, like and share. Right? That's the best way to spread it. So you see this video, if you're watching it, obviously, like it, share it. And that'll help. When Joey's sending the stuff out on Friday nights, and during the week and all that other time, you can like and share that as well.
And we still do have, through the Tradition Club, some fundraisers going on. Again, the game and season video sales, we can do that on DVDs or on USB drives, which are very, very, very popular. They're a little bit cheaper than the DVD season prices that you're seeing on the screen now. And the other fundraiser is the the game used jersey sales. This is now open to anyone, so we kind of let players get their first shot at it. But if you're, a business or a Wilson fan or someone that played prior to 1991 and you'd like a jersey, even if it isn't one that you wore as a player, let me know. You can email joe@bulldoghour.com or wilsonbulldogsfootball@gmail.com. The jerseys used in the 90s are $20, and then anything from the 3 right jerseys starting from 2001 to 2005, that red one to the right, are $35 a piece. So they're not bad. They make great gifts. I've had people coming in, picking them up recently, saying that they're going to be a Christmas gift. So it's a great opportunity to support the show, support the program, and have a little nostalgia trip with past Bulldog players and teams. All right. So a lot of stuff has passed that's on the list to talk about. The Tradition Club had their event welcoming back 3 teams during the Spring 4 game. Then we had the Gridiron Classic, which I know we'll talk about. And I think that pretty much covers all the stuff that we want to talk about just off the top. We can now dive into recapping the games and working towards the playoffs. So yes, let's pull up the schedule here to remind everyone what has occurred.
Yeah, so, it's kind of crazy to think back, but it brought back memories when we were at McCaskey on the grass field, of being up at Parkland, back in that hot August day. And we were kind of starting to figure out, what the team was shaping up to be. That was only after that first week. It typically would have been what we used to call the first scrimmage, even though Parkland tends to be our second scrimmage, and that whole, I don't want to say debacle because it wasn't really that bad this year, but everyone playing up a week earlier. So then we went to Central Dauphin, and then we had the Mifflin game, but we as the show were kind of out of commission for a little while. So we've come a long way since the Mifflin games, but when we were looking at that non-league schedule, Central Dauphin didn't go the way we would like. We had the show on that, back in August, but there were some things where we saw, especially in the first half of that game, where if we were just missing on some things, and then in Mifflin we got things going a little bit. That was good. Springford, same thing, and then we kind of ended up with Manheim Central, where there were some positives from Manheim Central, but there were definitely some areas where we just weren't able to click like we needed to. And then entering the league, we've been in that league schedule, so we didn't really know what to expect out of some of the teams, but it really turns out that we knew the non-league schedule at the beginning of the year was going to be kind of brutal. That we're going to have some tough teams there that we were going to have to face those first 4 weeks, and then we also knew that we had Penn Manor, which is really a young team.
They started a ton of underclassmen.
Yeah, so they are building right now, but we knew that's a game, especially being at Gursky, that should be a game that Wilson should be able to, if they're doing what they are capable of, they should be able to get there. But then we were going to have Township, Hempfield, Warwick, and then Cedar Crest ends up being no joke, and get some guys back healthy towards the end of the season. So
they weren't an easy out.
Right, we knew there were going to be at least these 2 stretches that were kind of like gauntlet runs, and they ended up pretty much being just that. So
yeah, it was 4 tough. One that you kind of were like, okay, this will be, we should be fine.
Okay here.
We can rest some people. Then we got 4 tough ones in a row before, maybe we can breathe. And that's exactly how it went. Yeah. Exactly as we expected in the preseason and all off season. It's exactly what happened. 4 tough games, little breather, another 4 tough games, and another breather. Yeah. Just this past Friday. So, let's take a look at some of the games, talk briefly, just a couple minutes on each one before we get to the playoff preview. And we'll start first with the rivalry game against Governor Mifflin way back on August 31st of this year. And we can see some of the highlights of the Wilson-Mifflin game. So this game started out kind of slow. It was a little bit back and forth, but the Bulldogs were able to hang in there. We got to see an interception early in the game with the score tied at 0. Then we got to see the first connection with Brady Gibble there from Anthony Futrick, which will become a theme as we go on.
I was going to say, you might think you're seeing a replay of that play a bunch this year. But.
Right. It was a back-and-forth game, and then a couple big plays would spark Wilson, but Mifflin always hung around. So, like, here we got a great run from Elijah Morales, a huge touchdown, and, put Wilson up by 14. It's 21-7. Well, now we're in the third, and it's 21-14. But Wilson gets a nice play to get close to the end zone, and they're going to punch it in here. Oh, well, they're not going to show it, of course. But Wilson went up 28-14. And then here you think you're getting a, the end right here, but Mifflin kept fighting back. They never went away.
No.
And, they cut it to 35-28, and you're just like, oh, man, this is just... And then Morales does his thing. Also a theme this year of him breaking huge touchdowns run. Yeah. He gets into the open field. Very few people throughout the state are going to be able to catch him.
He has been... he has been on a tear, and this was kind of like his breakout. And it's great when you have those guys break out at least that early,
Right.
We would have loved if we could have gotten the ground, and I'm not saying that's any one thing, but if we could have gotten the ground game going a little bit more against Central Dauphin. But, hey, you know what? That was over. They were able to move on to Mifflin, and they got it going. And you see, some of the yards there, 373 total yards, 269 rushing yards, so that they were able to get the job done there. And, the passing yards weren't very high, but they didn't need to be.
Right, but look at Mifflin's side.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Now they're more of a passing team a little bit this year, at least early on.
Yeah.
But now that they've gotten freshman Nick Singleton going through the Berks League, they've become more of their normal identity. Yeah. But early on, during their 0-3 start, they were throwing the ball a lot and not with a lot of success. Right. But, they played Wilson tough at Gursky, only falling by 14. And Wilson just had a few more big plays. And that was the difference in this one. So, it was after that, the disappointing loss to Central Dauphin in Week 1, it was a great bounce back for Wilson. We got to see a solid game from Anthony Futrick, and then we got to see a coming out party for Elijah Morales. That was really, he was the big guy in that Mifflin game. People started to ask about, who is this guy? Because people actually thought it was going to be Avanti Lockhart, the junior, going to be the main ball carrier. And he had his moments early, but then he succumbed to an injury against Manheim Central and missed a few games. Hasn't had a ton of carries since then. He's been playing more on defense.
They've used him in spot situations at running back, but not as the primary back. The primary back has been Elijah, and he's done a really good job.
He's done an excellent job. Yeah. He's just about to go over 1,000 yards for the season. I think he's at 963. That's awesome. They have another playoff game. Last year, Red Line wasn't able to stop Iggy. It's at Gursky, so we should be seeing Elijah get into that 1,000-yard club for the season in Week 11.
That would be a good sign for the team and an indication of the year that Elijah has been able to put up, which is awesome.
Every year, and we talk about it every year, there's always that what senior is going to step up and make a name for himself, someone maybe you weren't quite expecting.
Right.
And we knew because of us covering everything they do over the summer and in camp and whatnot that Elijah was going to have a pretty good role.
We knew that the team
was expecting big things.
They had high expectations for Elijah, and he has not disappointed
at all.
And it was interesting because you mentioned that, kind of that thing we hear every year, like who's the senior who steps up, who's the senior that steps up. And after the Mifflin game, we interviewed Elijah. Now, like we said, because of the circumstances, we didn't really get to, do like what we normally would have done and have that show on Sunday night of Labor Day weekend and everything. But we interviewed Elijah, and we asked, what's the key? And he's like, I waited my turn. It's my turn now. And, and that's just the mantra that we hear over and over and over again at Wilson. Usually we hear it from outside.
Right.
The guys say, oh, well, they wait their turn, and then they're good to go. It's more than waiting your turn. But you know what I mean? That's like the way that it's explained. and he basically said, he waited his turn, he got his chance, and now he's making the most of it. So that's excellent. That's what the good teams do. They have those guys who are working hard and maybe can't break through, or just don't. Not that they can't, but then when they get their chance, they fill in and they get the job done and they excel. And that is, Elijah has done more than get the job done. He has excelled, and that's great. And hopefully that can continue, this coming Friday, and hopefully for as many as we can get. So.
Yeah, for sure. So let's move on to the next week now and check out the Springford game in game number 3. Wilson sitting at 1-1, and they were able to go to 2-1 against the visiting Rams when or they would end up winning 33-21, but Springford actually jumped out to an early lead, and the Bulldogs looked in trouble. Springford was moving the ball. Defense didn't quite have the answers.
Right. We didn't mention this, but in that Mifflin game, we had a huge loss.
Oh yeah,
and
it's been so long that I kind of forgot about it.
Right, Nick Johnson went down in that game, and it was one of those things where,
these may be the Springford highlights as I watch this. Right. It's just tagged on the Wilson account, so we may not be seeing too many of the Wilson highlights here.
So we were tied to the yes. So our defense in that Mifflin game, we talked about how Mifflin was able to kind of put together some stuff, especially late. Well, Wilson had to move some pieces around because Nick Johnson, who was kind of the guy who was calling the shots out there on the field for defense, went down with an injury.
Yeah. And ignore that score at the top, please, because that is not.
And then, we're coming in here, and next thing you know, we're having trouble, stopping some defense with some defensive stops early. But then defense was able to kind of get it together, and the offense got it going, and we were able to kind of rebound and have a positive outcome against Springford.
Yeah. I have no idea what the score is at the top. It is not right in any way. And we're going to see that here at the end. I know that and the stats are right at the end. But Wilson does win this game despite these Springford highlights making it seem that it went the other way. But yeah, Wilson wins 33-21. But they did have some difficulty.
Right.
And there you can get a better idea of how the game went. I have no idea. Yeah, and that's all kind of weird that we get all those Springford highlights, the wrong score throughout the game, and then there's no stats. But hey, Wilson was pretty balanced in the passing and running game. It was a hard fought victory. Another, after doing it against Mifflin, they got to do it against Springford, and which
was good because you knew it was going to be a very different look. So Mifflin, the look, and we said there was more passing from Mifflin than there has been in years past. You saw that especially early on, and then they got things going with the running game as the year went on. But also, in following them at least loosely, you've seen some of that continue for them where they've been able to pass the ball. But Springford is going to come in to pass the ball, even though they had a lot of turnover in the passing part of their game. I think they had a new quarterback from last year and all that stuff. So, but when we looked at all those things, Wilson was still able to get the win, with that kind of adjustment being made without having Nick Johnson over there on defense and on offense. I know he was tight end and things like that, but they were able to get the win. And while there were certainly still things to clean up, they were moving in the right direction.
What we also didn't mention since then, because at the time of the Central Dolphin recap, we thought he'd be back in a few weeks, is senior Connor Cook not playing at all this year after his hand injury in the Parkland scrimmage. He was a starter at cornerback and contributing on offense and wide receiver as well. He hasn't been able to play at all this year, which has kind of forced sophomore Caleb Brown.
Too, didn't he?
He was the punter. Man. It's been a while since we had to talk about the kicking game, and we would have talked about it a lot, especially with this next game recap that we're about to do with Manheim Central. But yeah, Wilson desperately missed Connor Cook on defense and special teams for sure, because he was supposed to be one of those big senior players. Didn't get to play too much as an underclassman, a bit last year as a junior, but he was going to be the guy with Gilmore outside, allowing some of the younger guys to play in passing situations or kind of learn the ropes, but not able to do so. So disappointing for both Johnson and Cook to to miss most or all of the season this year.
Right.
Which obviously injuries you can't be predicted, and they happen to everyone. No excuses, but just you feel bad for the players.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The individuals.
That's the primary thing. You feel bad for them because they put in all that time and commitment, and then have something kind of out of their control, kind of limit that, limit the season a little bit. At least personally. Again, I know they both have been sticking out and are there and are helping the other guys and all that stuff, but it's got to be tough for those guys.
So Wilson's 2-1, riding a 2-game winning streak. They lost to Central Dauphin. They beat Mifflin. They beat Springford, and now they got quite possibly their toughest test they would have all season, at least as what we thought in week 4.
Yeah, and it was probably going in. We didn't know what to expect because Manheim Central had been having things rolling. They spotted Warwick a big score, but then they came back and beat Warwick, and so Wilson gets things going. And was able to move the ball a little bit. They had some big plays, but then
some turnovers, missed field goals.
It was
leaving points on the board. Yeah. That was the biggest disappointment, was not being able to punch it in when necessary. But, they jumped out to the lead. They were up 10-0, and it was 10-6. They'd get sparks here and there, but they just couldn't put it all together. And you could kind of see throughout the first 3 quarters, that Manheim Central was just, playing good team ball, not panicking, knowing that it was going to be eventually they'd catch a break, and that's what happened.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same game plan that they executed against Warwick. I don't know if it was the week before or 2 weeks before. I don't know when they played. But I think they were down maybe 2 scores in the first half to Warwick.
They were down 14-0 in the first,
and they
5 minutes. They
gave up, a kickoff return, and they gave up all this other stuff, which we will see, we understand.
Yeah.
But, they fell behind, and then next thing you know, they clawed back, and they won. And that Manheim Central team didn't lose this year, I don't think.
No, they're undefeated. Yeah, undefeated regular season.
Undefeated, 5A, 1 seed,
yep.
Which gets them a bye, I believe.
Yes.
And
beat up on some of those 5A teams, at least Calico, and they beat Warwick. So, they've faced and defeated a bunch of these teams that they could possibly see again. So they have to be the hands-down favorite in 5A to win that and quite possibly represent the East in the state championship.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how far they can go. They definitely have some talent.
What gets me about this game is, and they don't, unfortunately, it doesn't look like Manheim Central entered their stats into this. Here's a couple of them. The turnovers killed Wilson. We mentioned the punting game wasn't up to snuff, especially in the second half here. That was because Avanti Lockhart had kind of been promoted to backup punter. Behind Cook, and then he hurt his ankle in this game, and then we went back to a punter that had punted in Central Dauphin, and there was snappish, it just was not good.
Right.
The way things happened. And that's where things started to fall apart.
It's one thing when those things happen, because it's going to happen throughout the course of the game, throughout the course of the season, those things happen. But they just happened at inopportune times.
Yeah.
And so when you have the wrong things happen at the wrong time, it just adds up to sometimes it just doesn't go your way. And honestly, that game felt a lot like we felt a little bit last year, number of times where we're just like, man, when are the breaks going to go our way? You know? And,
you're right about that.
That's a bit of a helpless feeling. And, I say that as a helpless feeling standing there, usually in the press box or something. It feels a lot worse, I'm sure, for people who are trying actively to help and get the job done, And, we looked at that game. They had a lot of opportunities there, and we kind of let one slip away. And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. We let one get away in that one. And so it quickly became, all right, so we do have this Penn Manor game. But,
well, I just want to – I was looking for the stats, but the defense was able to do for the entire game, but especially the first 3 quarters against Simon and Flick was amazing.
Yes.
The defense against Manheim Central was lights out unlike anything we've seen in recent history.
Yeah.
Like what they were able to do for especially those first 3 quarters.
Against a heralded D1
Simon
prospect.
had, on the stat sheet, 3 completions, but he actually only had 2 because one of them hit the turf and shouldn't have been a completion. The other 2 were for touchdowns. Now, one was in the end zone after a turnover, I believe.
Yeah.
It was a short field.
Yep.
It's going to happen.
That's right. And the other one was a long pass.
And it was a coverage mix-up that the coaches were telling the players about prior to the play, and it still wasn't executed properly. But that's it. That's all he had. Those 3.
Right.
2 for touchdowns, 1 off a turnover, 1 a blown coverage, and the other one wasn't an actual catch. Yeah. This is one of the best quarterbacks in the state.
Yeah.
He's a junior.
He was an all-state quarterback last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he's a junior. He'll be at Gursky next year. Yeah. So, and Flick didn't get things going until the second half, and probably mostly in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I think he had like 70-some yards, and most of that was in the second half. The Wilson defense dominated the majority of that game, but the offense couldn't give him enough points to get the victory.
Right. Yeah, and so that was a tough one. Like I said, we felt like that one got away, and then we adjusted, and you're like, all right, well, we have Penn Manor next, and then I think we were at Township after Penn Manor, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So like,
right. So this is the breather game that we talked about.
Right. You got to get right quick though. There's not. And what kind of lingering effect? And now, Avanti's out, so another key guy.
Right. And Cam Magalotti actually missed this game too with a rib injury.
Now, like we said, Penn Manor, they're rebuilding,
really young,
but they are really young. Really young. And
Manheim Central flavor there with Brubaker, who was at Manheim Central for a long time, is the coach there now, and I think this is his 3rd or 4th year.
I think so.
And he's starting a lot of sophomores and juniors. So.
Right. So they're building, and it's one of those things when you start a lot of young guys, and this is their first Section 1 game, I think. So you get some of those things that you've got to overcome and kind of deal with over the course of the season. And Penn Manor is working to get back to where they were a few years ago. But they be honest, they aren't there right now. And
they had a good 4 or 5 year run under Mealy, who's now the head coach at Langston Catholic, who went undefeated this year.
Yeah. Surprised how that works, man.
So, but Wilson jumped out to a huge lead here. Got some great play on offense, defense, special teams, everyone contributing. Nice bounce back from a kind of a bit of a demoralizing end of the Manheim Central game. But Wilson went up big.
Home in the game that you should win, and they handled their business. So that was what you want to see. So there you go. Mason's run.
Yep. So even the underclassmen were getting involved with sophomore Mason Leonard having one of the longest touchdown runs in Berks or LL this season. 70+ yards. Some great offensive contributions in all facets. That's Mason on the right, not Gavin. But Futrick looked good. Elijah, great as well. Little shout out for the kicker, Jack Wagner, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. He's got all the power you could possibly need, as we saw just the other night at the McCaskey game. So, there's Elijah, one of the great games for him, 15 carries, 170 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Again, that breakaway speed, what he's able to do is pretty unbelievable at times. So
yeah, man, he gets through that line, and he just takes off. There have been games, and some of the people that go to a lot of the games have come up and talked to me, and they're like, man, you see, like, the guy has the angle and 5 yards. He's got the angle and 5 yards, and next thing you know, Elijah's just beating him to the spot and beating him, blowing by him. And he's like, he's just outrunning guys, which is a good quality to have for the running back. So
yeah, and based on last year, you could say that this is a great opportunity for him to do that this week. What we saw Iggy could do against Red Lion. I think didn't he have 6 touchdowns in the first half? Because we were saying to Doug, put him in, let him get, tie Shady's record at 7.
He said no.
And nope, not a chance.
Actually, he didn't even have to say no. The decision had already been. He knew. Nope, not happening.
So, A nice big win for the Bulldogs against Penn Manor. Again, like we said, to be expected. And then there was, the next 4-game gauntlet they started, and they had to go to Neffsville again to take on Manheim Township. Third time in less than a year, I believe. Yeah. So, it's a tough place to play. But, as we're going to see here, Wilson was up to it this year after a little mini 2-game losing streak to the Blue Streaks. Ending the run last year, taking the title streak away.
So Wilson, in our loss earlier in the year to Central Dauphin became the first team in a long time,
at least in modern,
to beat Wilson 3 straight seasons or 3. Yeah, I think
4.
3. Okay, 4 straight.
Yeah,
seasons.
4.
And then, but no, I don't think it's ever happened in the LL, or if it has, it's been a really, really long time. Manheim Township had the chance for that in this game, and this was a really close game.
This was way too close for comfort.
Right. But especially the way the games went last year. Remember, early on, the games were close last year, and then it just kind of
unraveled.
Unraveled, just little mistakes and things like that that Manheim Township capitalized on last year. This was one of those games where we kept wondering, when were things going to maybe break our way? Well, you know what? This might be one of those games where it started to break our way.
Yeah,
including things like this.
Huge play.
Right.
A sophomore, Caleb Brown, picks off the Harry Kirk pass, gets all the way down to the 2-yard line, and Wilson's able to punch it in, I think, on the next play by Elijah Morales here. So Wilson would go up, but we missed the extra point, don't we? Or was it blocked? No, it's blocked.
It was blocked.
Yeah. So the kick gets blocked, so Wilson's up 16-7. Now Township scored to go up 16-14, and this is when Futrick.
This is Wilson trying to run out the clock.
This is when Futrick was on fire in this last drive here, and Gilmore the whole night.
It's one of the biggest completions of the seasons, right there.
I said after the game that it's been a while since I've seen a player on a team that's seen as an underdog want to win as much as Isaiah Gilmore did before that Manheim Township game and during.
Right.
And it hasn't changed since then.
Right.
Like it kind of blew up against Township, and it's been that way ever since. He is a handful for teams to take down in the field, and he's especially in Johnson's absence, Gilmore has kind of become the senior leader.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that throughout the season. Like you said, it was on display in this game. That pass and catch, the pass had to be on the money, and the reception was still difficult because the defense was there. But that turned the field. Wilson was able to run it down. The clock almost out. They weren't able to run it all.
Yeah, there were a couple little.
But they made it very, very difficult for Township to be able to try and get in position for a game-winning score. So because of that, defense was able to kind of prevail there, and that was a huge win. And you talked about, especially after, we mentioned week 1, the first half, you were just like, oh man, we just let it get away, and then the second half, CD just took it. First half we felt like we let it slip through our hands. Second half they took it, and then we rebounded the next couple weeks. Manheim Central, we felt like we gave it away again. So it's kind of like you had a step back, but then we had 2 steps forward, and then we had another step back, and then Penn Manor was hard to gauge how much of a step forward is that, but we did the things we needed to do. But then you go to Manheim Township and you have that win, and that was huge. That was really important, and I think that really kind of shaped most of the second half of the season. This team, you started to see this team have some of that confidence of look, we are good enough when we put it together that we can move the ball on a good defense and score, or get yards when it's a key time. That last drive was. And what's funny is that didn't result in a score. The last drive in that game didn't result in a score, but I think we took the ball with it might have been 6 minutes.
It was a lot of time.
I think it was 6 minutes.
And they converted on 4th down, I think, at least twice.
Right.
Now, they did turn it over on downs inside Township territory.
Right.
But
it was inside the 25,
there was, 18 seconds left when they got the ball back?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think they ran almost 6 minutes off the clock or something like that. It was a lot of time.
That pass from Futrick to Gilmore was one of the best we've seen this year.
Yeah, that... For a non-scoring drive, maybe the biggest drive of the season.
Yeah. Well, we actually saw him do it the next week. It was 2 weeks in a row that fourth quarter drives help
You're right.
games.
You're right. The next one was huge too. So,
yeah.
To this point, biggest drive, and you could make an argument for it, but
yeah. So the next week was something that I've been excited about for a long time. They announced it last Thanksgiving weekend, I believe. They announced the Baseball Town Gridiron Classic, that the Reading Fightin' Phil's First Energy Stadium was going to be getting new turf. So they thought, hey, let's do a little throwback game to when a lot of Berks County high school teams played at what was then Municipal Memorial Stadium in Reading, and they invited a bunch of teams to play games there, and Wilson was the final act on October 5th against Hempfield. So let's take a look at the highlights from the Bulldogs' victory over Hempfield at First Energy Stadium about three weeks ago. This one, again, Hempfield had some players. You knew you couldn't overlook it, but this one should have been all Wilson. And at one point, it looked like it was going to be.
Yeah.
But then they had a hiccup at the end of the second quarter and through much of the third.
You were speaking of Gilmore running,
not
a man
being able
possessed
to get tackled.
Yeah. So there it was. Goes 2 yards and then runs for another 13 as the guys are going. There's a different camera angle here. We're a little far away out in the
camera
porch.
guy operating is not the best.
That too.
So.
That too. Not going to argue that, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt on the angle, which is of no control of his.
Now, we haven't seen as many of these as we should have, but here's another Futrick to Gibble connection. It's actually going to happen later in this game, and he's going to get a couple here in the next game. So Gibble actually was leading, or may be the regular season leader in Berks in touchdown receptions. And then a play here at the end of the second, you thought maybe, okay, this pretty much puts the game away. We're approaching halftime. We get the pick six by Nate Hoekstra, but Hempfield kept fighting back, and they cut it to 19-16. And then Wilson found some fourth quarter mojo to eventually silence Hempfield. And this is going to be, this is on fourth down. This was a heck of a call.
This is fourth down when we lost yards to go to 4th and 9.
Right.
And Gibble goes up and gets it.
Touchdown.
Yeah.
So
that was huge, and that capped a big drive.
A big drive.
I think that was the drive where A.J. Futrick was in at running back.
Yeah, well, Elijah went out with a little bit banged up, so we went to Anthony Futrick, the senior quarterback, his younger brother, junior A.J., and he was pounding with Futrick in the backfield.
Yeah, he was not shying away from contact.
No.
We'll put it there. And was quicker than I was anticipating. Now, I say that I, to be honest, hadn't really seen the kid run the ball much, in meaningful carries. We saw him. I think he got some carries in the Penn Manor game and things like that. But it's different when you're in there and your team is trying to drive for a score to kind of put you up 2 possessions again. And he stepped up big on that drive. Great call, great execution on that 4th and goal from the 9. To not kick the field goal when Jack Wagner had been having a good night.
Yeah, he had
kicking
a really
field
good
goals. Night. So that was kind of impressive drive and way to kind of put it together at another key time there. Back-to-back weeks, man. They had a key drive when they needed it. This one resulted in a score, and that was huge.
Talk about a team that had huge players. Some of those Hempfield kids, holy crow.
Yeah, they're big everywhere. They had big linemen, they had big receivers.
And I kind of expected a little bit more out of them to give teams a little bit more of a tussle, and they gave their best to us, I think, but they weren't able to hang with the Warwick or Township. So they've got their work cut out for them this week. I don't. Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's not impossible because
we've
Harrisburg
seen a lot
got
of
knocked
crazy
off
things
in a
happen.
game they should have won last year.
Hey, we lost to a team that we beat by 38.
Right. And I say should have won. Maybe they shouldn't have, because give it to Mifflin. Mifflin took it to Harrisburg last year. But I don't think that's going to help Hempfield's cause this year.
No. So Wilson went to Warwick the next week. That was essentially what could have been a league title clincher. And unfortunately, the Bulldogs came out flat. They didn't execute the the game plan just wasn't there to stop what Warwick was throwing at Wilson. So Wilson quickly went down 14-0. But a few great plays, although unfortunately missed kicks, resulted in Wilson being down 14-12, which we thought was going to be the score at halftime. But then once again, the Warwick offense was able to connect on a huge pass, a beautifully thrown ball from McCracken.
This is another great pass
to Rucci.
This is a great pass.
Yeah, this is a great pass.
This
is a great pass. You can see me getting ready to take a picture of it there in the red coat. Between two defenders.
On the money.
Great pass there. So Wilson went down 17-12 at halftime after a late field goal by the Warriors. And they just really had no defensive answer. And unfortunately, on offense in the second half, they would drive and stall on downs inside the 5 a couple times.
Yeah.
And Warwick was scoring on big plays. I think they scored 5 over 50 yards, including a 70-plus and a 98.5-yard one.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't Wilson's night. They weren't able to essentially seal up an uncontested league title here. But of course, during this game, we were also finding out that Cedar Crest was giving Township all they could, taking them to overtime.
So this was, you kind of mentioned this game was a culmination of a lot of just different things. It was not our night. It was their night. For sure. They had everything clicking. So you have your team, their best team in a long, long time.
Well, this is the first time that they've had a share of a league title since 1997.
Right. That's where that number came from.
There you go. Yeah, there's the 97. But look at this.
Yeah, that's
something you're going to see often. Throwing for over 500 yards. That is not a mistake.
No.
They gained over 600. Both again.
Right.
We talked about modern day.
And I think what was that?
Records.
It was on like 11 completions.
Yeah,
or something
there
like that.
weren't very many. So
yeah.
Hey, it was just a rough night at the office for Wilson.
And you know what? And fortunately, we're not used to seeing these types of things.
Right.
And there are teams that we faced over the last few years that kind of faced the possibility of this happening week in, week out.
Right.
And that just isn't a world in which we, as Wilson, kind of live in, And so that's the good side of it. The bad side of it is if you stick around long enough, things like that are going to happen.
Right.
We've been fortunate enough that hasn't happened in a long time.
Right.
But we remember back to games when you and I were in high school where we were on the giving end of some of those, but we were also on the receiving end of some of those, including I can remember in the early 2000s, some of those Reading High at Wilson, like we talked about, kind of took it to us a couple times. Not that that's an excuse or anything, but it happens, and again, this quickly became all right, well, it wasn't exactly what we were looking for out of that game, obviously, and by any stretch of the imagination. But then when we get to the next game, we know that, all right, well, Cedar Crest has just hung in there and went to overtime against Manheim Township, where Township recovers a fumble in the end zone to win the game.
Yeah.
All right, so you're thinking, oh, man, like, what's going on? And then, and they had been missing one of their key guys for most of the middle of the season, and he's back, and you're just like, they better be ready to go against Cedar Crest, or they're going to have some issues.
Yeah, before we move on to the highlights of that, which they don't have a game recap of, but I did pull up Elijah's highlights from the game to give you a taste of some of the events at Gursky from a couple weeks ago. We do want to just mention a couple of things that happened since we were off the air. One, earlier in the season, regards to a tragic accident at Central Dauphin with one of their football players. Someone passing away, and just this past Friday, the Warwick School District had an accident outside of their school, multiple vehicles, and 2 of their students tragically passed away. So, just want to send our condolences from the show, the team, the school, to both Central Dauphin and Warwick for suffering through events that no one should have to go through. And I just want to let them know that we're still thinking of them, and hope for the best the rest of this year, the rest of this athletic year, and the rest of this school year for all the teams out there.
Yeah, and it's really really difficult. This we mentioned when we were going through the highlights. Wilson was on receiving end of butt kicking at Warwick, but we mentioned that Warwick, this is one of the best teams they've ever had, and that was one of their greatest nights, and we saw them at their highest point, right? Like, I mean, football wise and just school wise and everything, and so how quickly tragedy can strike, and our thoughts are with them certainly at what should be a joyous time as they get ready to go, and hopefully an extended run here, and then to have something like this happen, and just no one should have to deal with that, and then you have trying to help high school kids deal with that.
Right.
That's not how it's supposed to work.
To have tragic events like that happen not once but twice in the same season, it's tough to deal with. So we're thinking about you guys, and hope everyone, guys and girls, and hope everyone can pull through.
Yeah.
So back to the highlights. Wilson Cedar Crest, senior night, and I have Elijah's highlights here because he had a big night. Didn't get a lot of playing time because, when he was getting the ball, he was making stuff happen, and he was the guy that Wilson turned to a lot. When they needed the spark, he was going to give it to them, as he has throughout the entire year.
That was one of those huge runs. That was one of those. Guy had 5 yards and the angle, and Elijah beat him.
Yeah. So Wilson's going to, again, Cedar Crest was very pesky, and they had a heck of a quarterback in the younger Horn. We saw the older Horn the last time Wilson played Cedar Crest. Evan, now his younger brother Logan is a senior, or is it the other way around?
I don't know which one.
I don't.
Just
I
Horn.
Yeah, the Horn brothers.
I feel like it's Logan, but because that's the name I know, I feel like that's wrong.
No, I think Evan is the older one.
Okay, I don't remember.
He plays both.
Either way,
football and basketball.
Yeah.
At the is it New Hampshire?
Something like that. We were just talking with Andy after the Warwick game. We were talking about the older brother. But Wilson was able to get a win there. Cedar Crest was kind of what we thought. Like, if you're not ready, they're going to come for you.
Yeah.
But I think they kind of ended up having a year like they've had in Section 2 the last couple of years, where they really turned some heads because they won a lot of the games that they're supposed to win, and they were really close in some of the games that maybe they're the underdog, but then just weren't able to kind of get over the hump. Here, Wilson, it was closer than that at times, but Wilson was able to control most of it through there and kind of take control the second half.
Right. But, if you can see what I pulled up, Elijah had 159 rushing yards. Futrick passed for 183. Gilmore was a big receiver there. He had a huge 40-plus yard touchdown pass that started to give Wilson some separation. But you can see Cedar Crest stuck around. Wilson goes up 7-0. It is Logan. There it is. Logan Horn ties it on a keeper, 7-7. Elijah busts through a 70-yard run. You're thinking, okay, it's just a little hiccup early. Elijah will get us going, 14-7. Gilmore contributes 21-7, but then here comes Cedar Crest, 21-14. Then Gilmore was able to bust it to a 2-score lead right before halftime, 28-14.
I don't remember which one it was, but I think it was the one right before halftime where Gilmore caught it and was covered and just runs away from the guy. Man, that was another one of those, man. He just he was running what appeared to be full speed, and then it looked like he got shot out of a cannon after that. That was pretty amazing. Again,
a balanced performance from Wilson. Almost 400 total yards, 183 passing, 215 rushing. They were good on third down. 50%. If you can hit on 50% of your third down, you're going to be able to do sustained drives. Wilson wins this one, 42-21, and got to move on with the chance to completely seal the deal of a at least a share of the championship by playing McCaskey in the finale, which did happen, which was not the score that is up here. I'm not sure what happened there. It looks like a score was contributed to McCaskey that should have been to Wilson, and there is nothing entered here, so I won't even bother pulling that up. But Wilson won the game 39-0. You know, they got another shutout. Actually, they shut out the two teams that we said were like the breathers. Because didn't they beat Penn Manor 44-0?
I think so. So that's what we said should happen, and they were able to get that done, which is good. There are a couple moments early where you're like, not sure what's going to happen here. I don't mean for the game, but just like to see it moving a little bit more. But then they were able to get some things. They were able to get some things going, and through that, they were able to, kind of create some separation there. And then, they put it together at halftime, and were able to really get it going in the second half, and really take control. McKeskey couldn't really get it going, and then the conditions got worse. So any chance they had it, kind of, trying to break some of the long plays and things was probably hampered by the rain and cold and mud and all of that stuff. So, yeah.
So I'm trying to get ready here for our playoff discussion, which we're going to go through really quickly here. A little bit of deja vu as Wilson, is able to jump up into the top half of the bracket, so they get to host a game, which will be this Friday night, November 2nd at Gursky, 7 o'clock kickoff, and that will be with Red Lion, which is exactly what happened last year. Wilson jumped from 6th or 7th to 3rd on the Game 10 week, which was, I guess, technically week 9. Is that how that worked? Because of week 0? Well, no, it was actually week 10 for us, right? Because we started later. Right. Or however that's so confusing.
I don't know,
it's
man.
so confusing. Trying to see if the brackets technically weren't ratified yet, even though the power ratings are done. I don't really know what they wait for. I guess they want to quadruple check it, which okay, but
click the run on the computer program 4 times, and then you're good to go.
Let's see if I can pull this up so everyone can take a look for the PA football news bracket here. Let's get this over there for everyone to see. This is actually the state bracket, but the D3 games are entered here again. All the games will be Friday, November 2nd, save for the Harrisburg game. That one will be Saturday, November 3rd at 1 o'clock, and they get to take on Hempfield. We kind of talked about that after talking about the Black Knights, and they got some big guys.
Right, there's no reason why Hempfield can't put together a good game against Harrisburg. However, Harrisburg is playing really well.
Yep, only lost to Coatesville.
Right, who there may be a rematch.
You know what I just saw, and I don't think they lost. Coatesville's the 2 seed in their district playoffs behind North Penn.
Wow.
I mean, I don't think it matters, like 1 and 2. There's really no difference.
But they play a 16-team bracket down.
Yes, they do.
So, yeah, that'll be interesting, and that could be a monster game in a couple weeks. So, but anyway, Harrisburg, is the one playing Hempfield next Saturday.
And then we're in that side of the bracket too as the 4 seed, taking on Red Lion, the 5 seed. So again, we mentioned this Friday we're taking on Red Lion again, second straight year. And there's your other side of the bracket. Township's the 2 seed, Chambersburg's the 7, Central York is your 6, Central Dauphin is your 3.
Right.
So,
if the seeds were to hold out there, you would see a rematch
of Township Dauphin. Right. Again, if there's no upsets, and then you would see Harrisburg Wilson again.
Right. If the seeds
going
held.
by seeds, which means Wilson would play at Harrisburg on Saturday. This is all conjecture. Obviously, both teams have to win, but should Wilson beat Red Lion and Harrisburg beat Hempfield, that game would most likely be Saturday, November 10th. I'm guessing 1 o'clock. Based on the history of the Cougars' schedule. Again, and then the November 16th, Friday, there's no site for the District 3 Championship yet because they are not playing at Hershey Park.
Right.
Which that kind of broke while we were on hiatus as well.
I think that will be decided depending on who the teams are that kind of advance.
So they're going to obviously do a neutral site, but kind of work it into the advantage of geography.
Right.
That's right. North Penn gets to play Ridley. So Ridley could lose to North Penn. Obviously, by the seeds, they should. And then they have a Thanksgiving game, which they could end up playing 12 games and finishing 6-6. Now, I'm not sure if the streak record of if that's the longest winning seasons or longest non-losing seasons. But we were watching Ridley throughout the year because they started 0-4, and they own one of the state records. They're the number one team right in front of us of winning seasons. So Ridley was 0-4, finished 6-4, plays North Penn in the first round, likely lost, you would think. And then they have a Thanksgiving game.
Although they just beat two teams
that only had one
loss
at the time.
Going in to get to this.
Yeah, so... Yeah. But we'll see.
Where's Downing? Oh, I forget which. I think it's Downingtown East that has the quarterback.
And they get to play Springford.
Right, but then that could set up the match. Could, if Downingtown East wins, set up the rematch with Coatesville. Coatesville took it to them, beat them by like 30-some last time, I think.
So
could be interesting down there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But definitely check out PAFootballnews.com for the brackets. Everything gets updated as the games go final. And I will, while I mention them, if you missed the Bulldog Hour, I actually ended up doing another show weekly with the folks from PA Football News. Bruce Badgley did a fresh set of downs for another site last year, and after a couple weeks, he asked if I would help out with his show that he was doing through PA Football News with Daryl Daniel, and then the operator and owner of PA Football News, Billy Splain. And they got me in there, and I wasn't a host so much as the producer, and I kind of got to do all the behind-the-scenes stuff that I scrambled to do here while also trying to talk and fill the air. So they've got a great site up there that I've been contributing to, so definitely make sure you check them out throughout the high school football playoffs this year and for all of your high school football news in the spring and summer as we get ready for the 2019 season in just a few months. So... all right, well, Red Lion, what's in store from Red Lion, the Bulldogs' opponent in the playoff first round this Friday? So at least one common opponent, and that is McCaskey. Red Lion played them at home at Red Lion the first week of the season. They came away with a 35-12 victory. They beat Waynesboro. They lost to Chambersburg, who's also in the District 3 6A field.
By a touchdown.
It was close, 19-27. It was at Chambersburg as well. But then they beat up on Central York, who is the 6th seed right behind Red Lion in the playoffs. Double them up. That was a bit of an eye-opener in the early, middle portion of the season. They were able to beat Southwestern, but then they fell to Northeastern. That one was a bit of a head-scratcher. Yeah. Otherwise, the seeds would probably be flipped. Yeah. Wilson would probably be traveling to Red Lion had they beaten Northeastern. And then they squeaked by York William Penn. Red Lion's an
interesting stadium, too, by the way. I don't know if you...
we did play them, but I can't remember if it was at their place or not. They beat York William Penn 21-20, which was also a huge surprise because William Penn has been dominating teams, and I believe that was York's only loss on the season, the one-pointer to Red Lion.
Some teams that had fantastic years, but they have a couple losses to teams that are like, oh.
They beat up on New Oxford on the road, beat Spring Grove at home, and then just this past week beat Dallastown, who struggled this year at Dallastown. But that's a huge rivalry game. That sometimes determines who wins the York League, that section of the York League. So Red Lion was able to get it done. But that loss to Northeastern, I wonder if there's some kind of extenuating circumstance we're not aware of.
Certainly can happen.
Illness, injury, suspension. I have no idea, but it's just
high school kids being high school.
Yeah,
we've not being ready.
We've seen it, in many different facets of our lives that random things happen that sometimes are hard to explain. But so Red Lion's the opponent again. We saw them last year. Wilson really took it to them last year at Gursky, beating them up. I think it was like 56-7 or something like that. It was a pretty big blowout.
But as we look at their schedule and dissect their schedule, we're like, I don't know how they lost this game. Well, and you referenced it earlier in the show too about playoff losses to teams that you feel like you should have beat.
Yeah.
Well, better be ready. There's no room for error now. There's no we'll rebound next week. No, you won't.
Not anymore.
If you fall flat, you could be in trouble, and that could be it.
So let's see if they have. It doesn't look like they have a recap of them playing William Penn. Now they have a. Let's just see what they look like, so people can get an idea of what to expect this Friday night. You saw it last year. We'll see, what to expect this year from Red Lion. This is their game in Week 10 or Game 10 against Dallas Town. And these are the Red Lion highlights, so they're wearing white. Wow, that was a nice catch.
And nice run after the catch.
So, we mentioned some injuries throughout the year to Nick Johnson and Connor Cook. We mentioned Cam Magalotti missed a game. Most recently, the person to go down with injury was...
so 11's a huge...
Wow, he's a big body.
That's a big boy running down
That
the
is
field.
a big boy, wow, yeah. Mostly...
He might be the guy who caught the one-handed pass on the one before. Didn't catch the number on that.
Yeah.
That's a big boy at tight end.
Wilson lost sophomore safety Troy Corson to wrist injury during the Cedar Crest game. He has a cast and didn't play against McCaskey. I do not know his status for this week, but I would guess he's probably out.
Usually the hard cast, the semi-permanent cast, not the one you're taking off and on.
Yeah.
Usually not a good sign, but.
So this just gives you an idea of what exactly
a
little inside reverse there. The reverse counter. That's a. So,
I have a feeling.
Oh, he's the kicker too.
Gosh, we're gonna have some big guy kickers in this game on Friday night.
We got to figure out who number 11 is. Get him and Wagner to pose.
Yeah.
So there you go. That gives you a little bit of an idea of what Red Lion is about. Again, we saw them last year, but a little deja vu.
Yeah,
getting to see him again this year.
Yeah, you gotta make sure you're ready. You have to make sure you're ready each and every week, and you got to put together a good game plan. Not necessarily somebody that was on the radar. Like league guys, you see them as you're watching other teams film, and you're coming up. You're seeing that as you prepare each week. Red Lion, like you said, the only common opponent was McCaskey week 1. So there's not a whole lot in terms there of common teams. So we'll have to wait and see on Friday night. It looks like they do have some guys who can make some plays. We saw that. Some big guys that are hard to bring down. So tackling is going to be a key. When they make the catch, you got to get them down, all that stuff. So, we'll have to make sure we're ready to go.
Yeah, all right, we're gonna wrap things up here, and while we wrap it up, I will show you the highlights from last year's Wilson Red Lion playoff game. The only other thing that I really want to say is that I've been streaming these games every week for the last 2 years, basically. But we do not have the ability to stream the playoff games without paying a fee to the district. And actually, that fee structure and whether we're allowed to do it is actually up in the air. District 3 is supposed to be determining the structure and whatnot tomorrow at their meeting when they, finally publish the actual brackets. And, I don't see why the district doesn't want to accept money for the broadcast rights to live stream, but that's on the table, and I know there are plenty of people that rely on the game streams, whether it's the ones that Wilson Media Productions do for the home games or the ones that I do, especially for those road contests that WMP doesn't get to. But if the District 3 says no one's allowed to do it, it can't happen. If they say we can do it, it's going to cost money, and that's not something that I can pay for out of my own pocket. Last year, we had some gracious donors. First round against Red Lion here was the Wilson Football Parents Organization. They paid the $500 streaming fee to allow people that couldn't make it to Gursky to watch the game. And again, it's not a very sophisticated stream. It's done with an iPad on the sideline with a cell connection. So I'm limited to what I can do, but I figure it's better than nothing. And if someone's willing to step up because there's a lot of people that can't make it to the stadium, I will continue to do it. But depending on what the district decides tomorrow, hopefully they allow people to do it. I can't fathom their reasoning for not letting people do it. But it's going to be...
Which Just to be clear, just because we can't fathom it does not mean it's off the table.
Right, no. But it's going to be, and again, this is confusing because they list District 3 6A football. They have 4 rounds listed for pricing. There's only 3 rounds. They have a first round, quarterfinals, semifinals, championship. Well, our first round is the quarterfinals, but they're different prices. So I'm not sure if the first round is $500 like it was last year, or if it's the quarterfinal price, which is $1,000. Yeah, the prices went up since last year because the WFPO paid $500 for the Red Line game. Then Weichel Realty Group paid the next round fee when we went to Manheim Township, and that was $650. Well, this year, if the first round's $1,000, the second round semis are not going to be $650. I think it's $1,250, if you can believe that, to broadcast the semis. Should Wilson beat Red Line, and should District 3 be allowing people to live stream the games? Yeah. So it's kind of gotten a bit out of hand, a little absurd. One of the big guys at District 3 is Rod Frisco. He's a great guy. He's on our side in that he wants to allow these live streams to happen. He doesn't really understand why other District 3 committee members are hesitant about it, but it all comes down to money because District 3 is a business. This is people's day job, and they have to make business decisions, whether we like them or not. But so I'll have more information on whether I can even attempt to live stream them sometime tomorrow. And if I can, we're going to have to start spreading the word and see if we can find anyone that will pay the District 3 streaming fee. So I think that's the last thing I have to say this evening. What about you? You got anything?
No, I'd just say, you can follow the social media stuff. I'm sure you'll be updating the status of that on there. It was good to be back for the last show here, or this latest show, not last show. Hopefully we can have a few more shows, and hopefully we have some positive things. But like we said, they have some work to do on Friday night. Don't want to overlook anyone. We had that discussion before. You got to handle your business. So we've seen through the night show and through the course of the season that when they put it together, this team can do some pretty good things. They need to put it together on Friday night. It's time to no more steps back. Yeah, that's basically
everything forward.
Right. Now we can only have steps forward. There's no room for error now. So let's get it done.
Yeah, there was one last thing real quickly. For those of you that do follow the social media accounts, which is a great thing to do on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, Wilson Bulldogs Football, Bulldog Hour. Last week at the end of the week, I posted a new shirt, Fridays are for the dogs. It was very popular. It was sold out in 3 hours. So I made another order. A lot of people have reserved them, but I still do have some left. They'll be in this Thursday, November 1st, so they'll be here in time for the playoff game. I will have them available as soon as possible at May's Sandwich Shop. You can message me to reserve a size if I have it available. Stop by and pick it up Thursday or Friday and have it ready for the game against Red Line Friday night.
Conveniently on Friday.
Conveniently. There will be youth sizes available. The normal T-shirts are $15. The plus sizes, I'll have double, triple, and 4X. Those are $18. So I thought it was a cool design. It came out really well. I thought the colors really pop, and I just liked the little take of the day and the group. So I thought it was cool. I liked it. But I think that's it.
Sounds good.
It's great to be back. Hopefully we'll be back for at least one more show, if not a few more shows during the 2018 season. But playoffs this Friday night at Gursky. Can't get much better than that. So, for Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays. I can't even say my name. Joe Mays.
Lack of practice.
And for the entire Wilson football program, thanks for watching. And remember, go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. Or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.